Maybe now it'll be better. I did have my device that I use for sound. It didn't work, so we're using something else. Hopefully it will work today. So Moshe Rabbeinu sends 12 very special people, and they're not just his people, the people of Moshe that are going to spy on the land of Israel, but they're also the specialist of their tribes. So they sent the specialist people out there in order to check on the land of Israel and to allow us to go into it. Now, there's a very deep explanation about it. But before we explain, I wanted to take a minute to explain what conceptually, what does Norah Alila al Bnei Adam, the statement that the Zohar expresses, that explains that that God creates a story. Alila is more like a story or a script based on the people here. We're, in a sense, actors in a play. Where does that come to? Where do we see it explained in detail? So where the Zohar explains it is, for example, when it says in Torah, when God said to the first to Adam, he said to him, "If you eat from the tree of knowledge, you will be expelled. You will die, and you'll be expelled from heaven." What happened was, in that moment that it was spoken, it had to happen. Meaning, as they say, history was written when Hashem spoke, not just when the person acted. So if we know that statement, that history was written in that sense, and we know that in history, we know that the Am Yisrael had to be in the desert for 40 years. 40 years. I remember when I was a little kid and I was looking in class at the map, and you're seeing Egypt and Israel and a walk of about, they say 3 days. That's what I remember as a kid. With so many people, I'm assuming a little bit more than that, but a very, very short distance compared to the 40 years that it took in the desert. So the length of time is a very lengthy amount of time. Now, what did they do in that time? What they did in the desert was very spiritual. They sat all day. They were literally covered by God's presence, by clouds and by manna that they could eat. So they had their food from Hashem, and they had their protection, and everything was good. In the desert, it was 40 years of preparation to go into this world. Now, Moshe didn't want that. He wanted right away to be able to experience the land of Israel and to do it properly. As we know many times in history, that we're waiting for that moment that we can break through the steps needed and have Mashiach and have redemption. So in the case that we're speaking here, break through these 40 years and be able to go straight into the land of Israel. That would have been amazing. So what does he do? He picks very special people, his people, that Rashi explains that these people were chosen and were to the knowledge and the experience of Moshe, and not by Hashem. So they were connected, they were supposed to be connected fully to their sender, to Moshe Rabbeinu, and they were supposed to go through it and experience the land of Israel, come back and give their interpretation of what happened, and allow everyone to be very excited and move forward. That was the plan. As it happened later on in the spies that Joshua sent 40 years later. So we can see that the mission could be successful. But obviously we know they failed. We know that it says, Shlach lecha anashim, that you should send people, v'yaturu et eretz Canaan. Eretz Canaan, many times the Rav explained it also, but in the Norm Elimelech is very much written. Canaan is having humbleness and modesty in the heart. So on the one hand, they're the most specialist people. On the other hand, in order to enter the land of Israel, you need to be humble. You can't just think of yourself and your ideology. As they thought, we know, what were they scared of? They were scared that reality is too tough, that we know how it's supposed to be, and the way in the desert is a beautiful way. We're doing fine, and what you're trying to do is yeah, it has good ideas, but it's too dangerous. It's just not going to work. And it also, there's no need for it. Desert is a beautiful place. You get manna, you get everything. What's the point of going into the land of Israel? What do we gain? We can see that today in many, many, many places where people want to revolutionize something. They want to go for something new, something exciting, something that could change things. And you have a lot of people that cry that we don't want change. Yes, the way that we are is kind of temporary, it's not great. But what you're proposing is much worse. Today, in today's age, we're proposing to have a country run by Torah. We're proposing that the land of Israel would be run based on the way that Torah wants it to be. And people are scared, very much scared of it. And we'll speak about it some more. But before we continue, we want to take a step back. In this class, we always try to go over the wonders of the week, the wonders of Rav Ginsburg. And since for technical reasons, which obviously have some deeper meanings, but in simplicity, we only get the talks that Rav Ginsburg spoke last week. So in this week, we're going to connect between what we just spoke, the desire to go into the land of Israel and make changes, and the specialty of each person that's supposed to do it. So we'll just remember what happened last Shabbat. Last Shabbat was the 12th day of the month of Sivan, which is 7 days from Shavuot, meaning if we look at the calendar, we have 7 days, the actual day of Shavuot, which was Sunday, and then 7 days afterwards is Shabbat. And what do we gain from it? What do we learn from it? So we know that there is 49 days to get from going out of Egypt, from Passover, until the holiday of Shavuot. What happens afterward? Do we continue counting? Do we say the 50th day, the 51st day? No, we got there. We got to Shavuot. So what is the 7 days after Shavuot? So the specialty of those 7 days is that if you didn't bring your offerings on Shavuot, you can do tashlumim. You can still pay it off by going and bringing the offerings. And as far as we're concerned, you can still experience the specialty of the Shavuot holiday for 7 days. And that's why, for example, we do not say Tachanun in the prayer. But the Shabbat that we speak about, the Shabbat of Parashat Beha'alotcha, was the 7th day, was the Malchut. As we know, the 7 days is compared to the 7 Sfirot. And the last Sfirah is the Malchut, is the kingdom of Hashem. V'aya Hashem lemelech al kol haaretz. And God would be the king of the land. How does that happen? How does Hashem become the king of the land? It happens when Torah is widely spread. And that's the connection. Taking the Torah of Hashem and spreading it to the world, as the Mashiach told the Baal Shem Tov that he will be able to come when the Torah is spread. When Yafutzu Ma'anotecha Chutza, when Torah is spread all over the world, then Mashiach is going to be able to come. So that's the specialty of the 7th day from Shavuot. It's the Malchut, it's the kingdom of Shavuot. Now, if we go a little bit deeper into that day, we know that in the Matan Torah, in the day of Shavuot, in the time of accepting of the Torah, there were two angles that happened at the same time. On the one hand, Hashem was very, very happy, as there's many psukim that express it, the happiness of Hashem, as we can say it in the simplest way, that Hashem, there's a new step, there's a revolution in the way the world is being run up until now. It's been one way, and now Torah is going to change the world. So Hashem is very happy. But we have yirah, sensitivity and awe of this great revelation, from being a world of darkness to being a world of Torah, of light. It was an experience, as they say, above the world, something that we couldn't handle. So we mainly felt the awe of Hashem. So there are two feelings that are on two angles. One hand is happiness, and the other hand is yirah, is sensitivity and awe, which does not always allow for happiness to be out there. Now, what do we say today when we go into the Beit Knesset, when we go to shuls, when we go to places and meet people on Shavuot, or even before Shavuot? We say that you should receive the Torah, Kabbalat Torah, besimcha ubepnimiyut, with happiness and an inner dimension, inner understanding, pnimiyut. So what do we want? We want the ability to accept Torah the way Hashem gave it, with happiness. And over the years, Baruch Hashem, we were able to do it. Rav Ginsburg explains that the same thing happens with giving of Torah. When you spread Torah to the nations, to the world, in general, when someone wants to get close to Torah, what is the first feeling that someone feels? When I was thinking of a good example of this, I thought of a guy jumping out of a plane. So before he jumps, there's tremendous amounts of lists of things and different precautions that you have to take. And you got to have a parachute, and you got to tie it, and you got to make sure everything works. Tremendous amount of sensitivity to details and to the situation, and you're in simple fear. But what happens after you jump? After you jump, you're mainly focused on the happiness. You're having a good time. So that was the example that came to my mind. The same thing about Torah. When Torah is given, it's a very sensitive time. It's a time of tremendous awe and fear. But afterwards, when we're able to learn Torah and connect to Torah, there's nothing happier. The way you know of a tzaddik, of a righteous person, is he's happy. There's nothing more fulfilling and happy than living and learning Torah. That's just the way it is. It's the connection to Hashem and the connection to the world. In Hashem's eyes, as we spoke about pnimiyut, the inner connection to the world, not to the external sense of the world. So what we're trying to say is, just like in our way of experience, we first had the fear and awe, but then we have the happiness, the same thing in spreading of Torah. First, yes, it could create tension, as people say, but at the end, we want everyone to be happy and connected to Torah. Everyone, even non-Jews that learn Torah. 31 years ago, in the Shabbat of the 12th of Sivan, the Rabbi went to speak, and it wasn't intended to. There was no arrangements made. But the story was probably that someone told him on Friday that they're going to have a huge operation. It's called Mivtza Shlomo, a huge operation to get all the Ethiopian Jews out of Ethiopia and to the land of Israel. And it was a very dangerous operation. And there was a lot of back and forth about whether we should do it or not. We know that they went through conversion, Giyur L'Chumra, it's called. It's not the simplest conversion, but at the end of the day, it was a big debate. And when the Rebbe spoke, no one really understood until there was a police officer outside that told them what happened. He listened to the news. But in any case, he told the Dvar Torah was what the Rebbe said was that we need to be going out to the end of the world to get people and connect them to Torah, and we need to be Moshe Nefesh for it. So what we're saying, what Rav Ginsburg said, is just like at that time they had an operation Mivtza Shlomo, we have our operation, which is the fourth revolution that we've been speaking about, that Rav Ginsburg brought us about 7 years ago, which is to fill the world with Torah. Instead of bringing people to the land of Israel, bring Torah to everywhere in the world. And now we need to go all in. And be Moshe Nefesh and connect to that part. As we know that it says that Moshe Rabbeinu was, and we spoke about it last week a little bit, that he was the most humble of everyone, of all mankind. And when we say all mankind, we mean even non-Jews. He was able to go to the lowest level and experience humbleness and experience the ability to see the potential in everyone, in a sense that he was able to connect everyone. And he is able to, and we obviously know that every tzaddik is with us, and especially Moshe, that he is expanding in every generation into a new tzaddik. So that part of being humble on the one hand, on the other hand, connecting everyone, that's Moshe. All right, so when we speak about Parashat Ba'alotcha, what is the Parasha about? What does it start with? It starts with the menorah. The menorah had 7 Sheva Kanim. It was built on based on 7, and those 7. What's the word? 1 second. How do you say Kanim in English? Someone, please. If not, I'll check it. Translate doesn't give me a can't see the best word to say it, but if we look at the menorah, it had 7 like cans, 7
branches.
What'd you say, Ilana? Branches. Okay, fine. Again, not exact, but a good word. We'll use it. So the menorah had 7 branches, and those 7 branches, as we spoke about the 12 people that were sent to spy, the 7 branches of the menorah are 7 types of people, 7 different personalities, and that's explained many, many times. And it's very important to learn this in the various places that it's brought by the Baal Shem Tov, and the Alter Rebbe brings it. There are 7 types of people. There is people that are more the love and kindness people. The pnimiyut of chesed, of loving everyone. There are people that are more the yirah people, the sensitivity people that are connected to sensitivity. People that are more about compassion. People that are more about confidence and victory. Now, when we say people that are confidence and victory, what we mean to say is people that that bring new things to light, people that go after new things. They're like entrepreneurs in that sense, that they always think of new things to do. Then there are people of acknowledgement, people of hod. There are people that more see Hashem in every place. They don't need to make new things. They see Hashem everywhere. They see God's hands in everything. They are able to acknowledge and say thank you for everything. So that's their main way. And then there are people of Yesod. Now, people of Yesod is very interesting. people of fulfillment. That there are people that the main thing that they care about is making something practical, is taking something that's not fulfilled and bringing it to flourishing, bringing out the potential in people, in themselves and in others. And then there are finally the Malchut, the people that are humble, they're very, they have lowliness within them. But especially those people, as we spoke, the Malchut, those people, because they don't feel themselves as that high, when they accept Torah, they're able to spread it to everyone in the world. They're very connected to the fact that everyone should have Torah. And their ability to be humble and low is their ability to spread Torah. Now, these 7 ways are also connected to the 7 tzaddikim. Every tzaddik, every righteous person has its branch, as we're trying to say. And so love and kindness would be Abraham, and awe and yirah would be Isaac, and compassion would be Jacob, and netzach, as we said, victory and the confidence is Moshe, and hod and saying thank you and connecting and acknowledgement, that's more people of Aaron, and Yesod is Yosef, and finally Malchut is King David. So every tzaddik has its own way, and every person connects. Now, obviously, everything is everyone has an inner inclusion of everything. So a person that has his kindness could have the awe of kindness, etc., as we speak about in Sfirat HaOmer. So everyone has everything. However, there is something that you connect to the most. There's something that, and there are many ways to look at it. There's also ways of special branches within Am Yisrael. Rav Ginsburg explains within the animals, there are different animals that basically, what type of animal are you? What do you connect to? So it's something very deep that actually I wanted to expand on it a lot more, but we don't have the time, and I also wanted to look into it a lot more. Every way also has the things that are good for it and the things that that are the main pitfalls in that way of working. So those are the 7 branches, the 7 ways, and all these ways are supposed to be lit by Aharon. When he's the high priest, he's supposed to light them, and not just light them so strong that they light by themselves, that they take and continue the light, and they don't need any more lighting. So it's lighting them in a way that doesn't burn out. Now, all of these ways, everyone has their special way, but all of these ways need to connect to Moshe. Why is that? Meaning Moshe also has his way, but there's something within Moshe that's inner depth of connection to Hashem. And what is that? It says about Moshe, Utmunat Hashem Yabit, that he looked at at Hashem. And what does it mean? So Rav Ginsburg explained it also 2 weeks ago, but also last week, that that Moshe could see everyone the way Hashem sees them. When we look at someone, we can see the external of what he's doing, of what he's good at even, but we can't see the potential, the way Hashem sees him, the way he is in the potential, in the creation. That when Hashem created everyone, he created them with a certain purpose. And seeing that purpose, seeing even the purpose of himself, of Moshe, that was the special sense of Moshe Rabbeinu. And obviously in every generation, the Jew that is most connected, the righteous person that is most connected to Moshe, that he's the expansion of Moshe in that generation, has the ability to see the potential in each person. Now, when you see that, then you're able to take each person's ways and not ruin his way. Obviously, it says about chinuch, about education in general. It says, Chanoch lanoar al pi darko. You should educate a boy, a kid, based on his way. This way, gam ki yazkin lo yasur mimena. Even when he gets old, he will not go off his way. So the famous question, if it's his way, if it's not the way I want to educate someone, then what's the point? And the answer is that even within his way, there is the ability to take someone's way and connect it to the bigger picture. If someone is good at something, but he doesn't connect to the bigger picture, then the potential is not fulfilled. Every person is supposed to have his way, as we saw in the Meraglim that was sent, the spies. Every person has his shevet and his way of learning, but they were all supposed to connect to Moshe. There's a connection to someone that sees the way that Hashem sees the world. And that connection must be made. As it says, the Norm Elimelech also explains it, that that the menorah was made based on the way that Hashem showed Moshe. Why is that so important to say? Because it's all connected to Moshe and the way that he sees things. Now, if we take the word Moshe numerically and we expand it to every letter, mem is mem sofid, meaning expanding of the word, it equals the same value as Pnei HaMenorah, the face of the menorah, again, which is a beautiful way to show that the connection of each person has their way, but there needs to be a connection to Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, what's so special about Moshe? Moshe, as it says, he was the most humblest person in the world. Now, the Rabbi explains how was he humble? How was he able to be humble? Because he said that if someone else had the potential and the tools that my neshama has, he would be able to do maybe a better job than I could. The one place the Rabbi said maybe, and the other place said for sure a better job than I could. So that's a simple way of thinking, to connect to your potential without being haughty, without being full of yourself. Understanding that you were given the circumstance, you were given the tools needed to do the job that you're supposed to do. So when you do the job that you're supposed to do, it doesn't mean that you're something special. It just means you took your potential and you did what you needed to do with it. So when we connect to that, when we connect to Moshe, then that allows us to expand and not just be full. Someone could be full of himself and then get stuck. Now, the higher level that the Rabbi explains of the humbleness of Moshe was just to do good with others. As we see with the Baal Shem Tov, the stories of the Baal Shem Tov was that he was good to every Jew. He even the simplest Jew, he sat with him and taught him Torah. Who do we learn this from? We learn this from Aharon. Aharon was also, just like Moshe, there's something about Aharon that's all-inclusive. His way, he's the one that's lighting the menorah. What is his way? His way is to love everybody and to make everybody get closer. That is the way of Aharon, and that is everyone's way. What's so special about Aharon's way is that his goal of having everyone closer and connecting everyone, and his work of doing that is together. Meaning some people, they want to fulfill something. So their goal is to make something happen, and the way of doing it is different. But here, the goal of loving and connecting people is what he does. He goes out and loves people and connects them. There's a lot more to say about the menorah and the different ways of every Jew, and I urge everyone to expand on it. There's actually several, both from Rav Ginsburg and from many others, Baal Shem Tov, etc., that explain how each person has its way and how we can expand on it and connect it all to the bigger purpose. But since we're low on time, I want to say something about the Chatzotzrot, the trumpets. Very interestingly, in Parashat Ba'alotcha, we speak at the end about the trumpets. What were we supposed to do with the trumpets? So Moshe Rabbeinu was supposed to call people with them. They were very special, and they were meant to call everyone to hear what Moshe has to say. And there are three other times that we use the trumpets. First, when we do korbanot, and then when there's trouble, when there's a war or where there's a problem, we sound the trumpets, and it connects people. So the question is, why doesn't the Rasag and the Rambam, when they count the mitzvot, how many mitzvot are they counting? And in short, they don't count it as two separate mitzvot, but one. Why is that? Because of the inner meaning of the trumpets. When we make the big sound, the goal of the trumpets is to connect people to Hashem. And when you do that, when you connect, it's the same way, whether you do it because of troubles or whether you do it because you for the offering. So what Rav Ginsburg said, and this is the special word that I want to explain a little bit, that when you sound the trumpets, what you remind people is that there is only chatzotzra. The word chatzotzra is chatzitzara. There's only half trouble. What is the other half? The other half is connecting to Hashem, is understanding that there's a bigger picture. It's just like the sound of the trumpets. To me, it's just like to shake someone and say, remember, connect. That's all it does, connect. When we connect, you're able to see Hashem's connection to the trouble and connect with him, and therefore be able to be elevated from the trouble. Now we know that the chatzotzot is not a mitzvah that we do. There are some special mekubalim, people that do Kabbalah that have trumpets, but as a general rule, we don't connect to it because it's hard. You can scream a lot, but if you don't connect, then it's not, I guess the mitzvah is not there. Rav Ginsburg said that after we explain this shiur, maybe we could reinstate the trumpets to be able to blow and connect to Hashem. So again, we'll summarize a little bit what we spoke about. There's two parts to the wonders that we spoke about. The main part is how each person has its branch and its way, whether it's the way of kindness or the way of might and sensitivity, or the way of compassion, or the way of victory and as we said, entrepreneurial way, or whether it's the way of thanking Hashem and finding Hashem in everything and connecting everything and loving kindness in that way of our own, which we explained a little bit more, or the way of fulfillment, or finally the way of being lowness and humble and expanding Torah. So each person has its way, but every way is connected to Moshe, to the person that sees the way Hashem sees it. And when you connect every way to Hashem, then you're able to elevate every branch and have everything light in the proper way. And the second thing that we said is about the trumpets, that the trumpets, if we look at them innerly, what they reminded us is that Hashem is there in every trouble. And we should also remember that. And that's why they blew very strongly in order to remind us of that. And we also, when we have troubles, obviously, eventually we'll have the trumpets, Be'ezrat Hashem soon. But we want to be remembering Hashem and remembering that every trouble is only half the trouble, because the other half is Hashem's way of making something good from it. So if there's any questions, I see that there is already in the chat. Let's see. Okay, so the extra days after Shavuot are called the Tashlumim. And the days there's 7 days. So there was the first day of Shavuot, which was this year on a Sunday, and then all the way through Shabbat, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. And each one of those days is called Tashlumim because those days you were able to bring the offering, the korban, if you for some reason were not able to on Shavuot. So for us in the inner dimension, we learned that each day is the expansion of Shavuot. So the first day is the chesed of the Shavuot, the loving kindness of Shavuot, and the last day is the Malchut, is the kingdom of Shavuot. So very special 7 days. Any other questions? We have a few more minutes.
I have a question.
One second. I forgot that my sound device. Now I can hear. Go ahead.
You said that Aaron lights the branches, which sounded like maybe we have to have hard. Then you said we need to connect to Moshe through the branches, which sounded like that's Netzach. And then you said Moshe has a capacity for seeing the potential of people, which sounded like what you said about your sword just before that.
Correct. So we'll explain a little bit more. Each person has its own way, its own branch. Let's say someone's main way, let's say, for example, is loving kindness. He's a person that goes around and he connects to people the way Abraham did, and he does chesed, he gives them charity, etc. That's his way. So we're not going to take that from him. That is his way, although he does have other ways within him, but that is his way. That's his goal in life, to be able to bring out his loving kindness. However, even within his way, he needs to connect to Moshe Rabbeinu. Why? Because this way he will be able to bring his way, his special way of, for example, loving kindness, bring it to fruition, to the full potential of it, based on the look of Moshe Rabbeinu. Now, even Moshe has his way, which is the victory, the confidence, the entrepreneurial way of looking at life. But that's his way as a person. He also has his way as the leader, which is separate from that. So even the people of Moshe that connect to him and are people that always go out and try to create new things, they also need to connect to the Moshe of the generation in the higher level where he sees their inner potential. So there's two levels to Moshe. There's a branch of Moshe, which comes out to be the middle branch if you look at the 7 branches. But there's also the Moshe in the sense of looking at Hashem from looking at the way Hashem looks at things, which is the higher level of Moshe. So it's 2 levels. There's the level of Moshe's branch, and there's the level of Moshe as a whole, as Pnei HaMenorah, is looking at the whole drawing of the branches as one menorah. Okay, let's see the questions here.
What can we learn about the fact that Aaron lights?
What we learn is that at the end of the day, the connection to Aaron that we all have, just like we have a connection to Moshe, which can see the inner potential, we have a connection to Aaron by loving kindness and connecting people. That is something that everyone should have. Meaning, even if you're a person of might and awe, and your way is being very strong in your ways. For example, let's take a simple example. You're in the accounting division, in the accounting branch. You do numbers. That's very nice, but you still need, when you look at a Jew, to get him closer, to connect him, to bring out the love. So that is part of, even though there's Avraham, which has loving kindness, there's a special all-inclusive Aaron, which is the higher level of loving kindness that connects everyone to within their branch, but connects everyone to be connected together. So just like Moshe is all-inclusive in that sense, Aaron is also in his way. And the interesting thing is that Mashiach will be, in a sense, closer to Aaron in that way, that he will learn with even the simplest people, just like the Baal Shem Tov, which is a higher level of Ohev Abriot, of loving people. All right, now let's try to read the questions. Okay, so this is a complicated question. So the question is, are we supposed to develop our character in one way, in one branch, or as an all-inclusive? And the answer is both. Obviously, we still need to focus on what we do best. So if someone is a person that loves people, that has love and kindness within him, and for example, because of that, he does a lot of charity, he still needs to do charity. But he also, within him, still needs to have, might when needed, for example, not to give to people that are not supposed to get, etc. And he still needs to have the connection to Moshe and Aaron, as we spoke. So on the one hand, you need to connect to your branch. On the other hand, you need to have an all-inclusive, an inner inclusion part of everyone. Yes, so that is definitely something. Let's see the next question. Okay, so the difference between the trumpets and the shofar essentially is very, very different. The trumpet is an outer sign that's supposed to shake you, supposed to connect you to something. The shofar is an inner sound. The shofar is supposed to connect, you're supposed to connect to yourself. With the trumpets, you're supposed to connect to Moshe or to Hashem, etc. So it's very different between the trumpets and the shofar. They're very different sound, they're very different meaning. So Moshe as a person represents victory. That's his way to create something, to go ahead and fix what's broken, to look at the world. People that are connected to the netzach, to the victory, they look at the world, they see what's broken, and they work to create new ways to fix it. So that's his branch as Moshe. But Moshe as also a branch as the leader of Klal Yisrael, as the Moshe Rabbeinu as the leader, and that is not his branch, but rather the all-inclusive way, which is the connection to the way Hashem looks at things, and the menorah, the pnei ha-menorah, the inner part and the face of the menorah, which is how Moshe Rabbeinu connects people to their inner sense, inner goal. Is that true? That is one. No, I've not heard that the day of the week affects the Sphira. I mean, in a sense, yes. In a sense, yes, it does mean that, because the third day of the week does connect to the Sphira, but it doesn't mean that your branch will be the branch of Tiferet. That something very interesting. I heard a story of a guy that asked Rav Ginsburg about all these astrology and looking at stars and all these different things. And what Rav Ginsburg said is, yes, it's very nice, but within each thing, there's so many components that looking at it only in one way is just, you're not going to see anything. So if you look at it and say, I was born on a Tuesday and therefore I'm Tiferet, you're not seeing anything. It doesn't mean that your branch, for example, you may be connected to Abraham, which is more in the day of Sunday. So what does it mean that you were born on a Tuesday? It has a meaning. Yes, it definitely has a meaning. And the meaning does have to do with the sphere of Tiferet, but it doesn't confine you to the Tiferet in that sense. And for example, in the sense of the branch that you're connected to.